Good morning. On behalf of Montega, welcome to the earnings call of IuteCredit Europe regarding the preliminary fiscal figures of the fiscal year 2022. The CEO, Tamu Slit, and Christel Kurwitz, CFO, and Güskü Tugay Bilal, CCE, will give you a presentation on the results in a moment. Afterwards, there will be enough time for our Q&A session. Questions can then be asked by audio line or chat. We are looking forward to the results, and I hand over to Tamu.
Thank you, Fleur. Good morning, everybody. We had the best year in Iute's history. And this is thanks to our customers and also thanks to our fantastic team in Tallinn and in Sofia and in Tirana and in Chisinau and in Skopje and also in Sarajevo. So thank you, everybody. And before we go into drilling the details, I would like to say that the double growth has really been a great challenge for us. We have now in the group First Bank. We are setting up at least one more payment institution. And we intend to extend our activities from the simple loan company into a company which is offering all kinds of instant payment services to our customers. We have close to 500,000 MyIute app users, and this is really a great breakthrough. And actually, since we very seldom celebrate success, I think it even deserves a pause for, let's say, 2 seconds. And now if we could go into the details. I first start talking about IuteCredit's business. Without the FX business results, we see that by end of last year, we had a total customer pool of 857,000. And the total income, total revenue that the customers paid to us during the year reached 72 million euros. The net loan portfolio went to close to 150 million euros. And the NPLs in net portfolio reached a level of 9.4%, which is improvement over 11.3%, which we had the year before. And most important that we look inside the company management, the customer repayment discipline, or CPI, shows that we receive on time or with maximum 30 days delay, 19.4% of all the repayments that are scheduled with our customers. So next question could be how exactly has it been achieved? And we can turn to the next slide. Before this, of course, I referred to our previous earnings call. If you remember, we discussed the impacts of Iute's new core, which is a single IT platform that we apply everywhere to originate loans and to maintain loans, and also eventually to process payments and to manage customer profiles. The whole business is actually around the customers. So if you put aside for a minute the thinking that there has to be balance sheet, there have to be revenues, and the company has to make money in order to serve the interest and also serve the shareholders, the centerpiece still is the customer. And our focus is to understand each individual customer to the maximum possible extent and to value each customer. That, of course, is a challenge. It's easier said than done. And for that reason, we have also inside Iute Group a specific management function, which is management of the customer experience. And for that reason, I have also asked to join our today's call Güskü Tugay Bilal, who is our Group Chief Officer for Customer Experience. And the easiest thing to remember about Güskü is that she owns MyIute app, she owns our branch network, and she owns the customer satisfaction numbers and different customer statistics. She will have a chance to present separately after we have gone through a few more slides. But this is the centerpiece, the customer. So let's take now the next slide. Our operational footprint. So you see the slide is split into two columns. There is the non-bank column, the historical. One investor yesterday called it legacy. I would not call it legacy. I think it's the core business. And as you see that in 5 countries, we still have 2 countries above the rest. They are Albania and Moldova. They are basically on a par. If we look at the amount of loans issued, 80 million euros equal. Net loan portfolio, almost equal, slightly more in Albania. Total income, almost equal, 26 million versus 28 million. EBITDAs in the same range. Impairments, highly, slightly above or higher in Albania. Now, if we look at North Macedonia, then there the amount of loans issued is exactly half of what Moldova and Albania achieved. Net loan portfolio is also basically, we could say, exactly half of what is in Albania, Moldova. Total income, half. EBITDA, also about half. And impairments are unfortunately higher than in the 2 leading countries. Bulgaria, our very well progressing startup, loans issued during last year, 10 million euros. Net loan portfolio by now exceeding 5 million, and total income already contributing to the big picture. And actually, it is very nicely growing, and it's the country where we do digital loans full cycle. And the smallest, where we leave the footprint, smallest country is Bosnia and Herzegovina, where, as we also have discussed previously, due to regulatory restrictions, we are not able to proceed with fully digital customer journey. We are revising our business processes, and for the time being, it seems that we are not growing in Bosnia. It is possible that we are also scaling back the business there. In the bank, on the right side of the presentation slide, you see that last year the bank issued 43 million euros worth of loans and achieved a net loan portfolio of 48 million euros. And if we see now also the split of the portfolio and revenue across the group, we see that in terms of portfolio, the bank makes about 25% of the group's portfolio. And in terms of revenue, the bank made 19%, which is also logical because bank loans are yielding less than the standard Iute loans. I think we can move on now to the next slide regarding total income and the loans issue volumes. If we look at the 4 quarters 22, we see that IuteCredit's, again, I speak of IuteCredit without the bank, IuteCredit's revenues were on an increasing trend throughout first, second, and third quarter, 15.9, 17.5, and 19.5 million euros in total per quarter. And then the growth stopped, and we earned exactly the same 19.5 million euros in fourth quarter. And this actually reflects the overall market situation in our countries. And I refer to higher inflation, higher share of customer expenses that must be given out just to maintain the household, electricity, energy, food, and also the customer's more conservative approach to the future, lower expectations. So really what we see in this financing, and we can also see the same in the loans issued, where you see that if Q1 we issued 41, for which includes the Christmas, we did 59 million euros. So this actually, in anticipation of questions, how is the war or how is the inflation affecting us, we can see that clearly there is effect, and the effect is in reduced customer. One could also ask whether there is effect on loan repayment discipline, but we come back to this in a moment. The assets have been increasing. The assets increase in IuteCredit's business also include the share in the bank, the shareholding in the bank. That's why you see that the total assets of IuteCredit alone have increased from 166 million to 240 million. Maybe also to be added here that the weighted average APR of new loans that we issue is at about 47%. And the loan maturity has been quite stable at around 21 to 22 months. So this is from the good news, though, we also is that the bank is making money. Let's take now to the next slide. The bank. If we compare bank's 22 results with 21 results, we see there is a significant increase in bank's revenues. Essentially, what we as the new controlling shareholder of the bank, who by now also has appointed the management of the bank, and also we have now the bank with a fully manned independent supervisory board approved by National Bank. We see that the bank is turning itself slowly around, and increasing revenues is one proof of it. We also see that the bank's net profit has been increasing. There, I would not say that it is the favor of the new shareholder mostly. It is probably just because the bank is putting out more assets at the higher yields. And quite interestingly, in Moldova, the banks are also able to buy government bonds, and government has been borrowing money from capital markets in recent years at rates which exceed 12% per annum. The bank's net loan portfolio has been quite stable, and we don't expect it to increase sharply before we complete the turnaround process, which means internally we have to change the way how the bank originates loans, how it maintains the loans, and also how it processes payments, and most importantly, how the bank treats its customers. We also see that the bank's equity has increased. Basically, because if you see the difference in euros, 147 to 139 million euros, then contributing factor here is also the foreign exchange losses. So Moldovan lei has devaluated, and that obviously in euros. The bank has 72,000 customers, and the bank is profitable. So essentially, while we take our time to turn the bank around as quickly as possible and integrate it with Iute, we are not in a desperate need to make everything overnight. We do it in compliance with regulations, and also based on our best knowledge how the bank should work. We can now turn to the next slide about how customers behave. And in one sentence, even during last year, the customer loan repayment behavior has not worsened. It has improved.
Tamo, sorry for interrupting.
It could have something to do also. Yes?
But your internet connection is very unstable. Might it be possible to dial in by phone?
I will.
Okay, then we just wait a second until you're back again. So, dear participants, it just takes a minute until Tamo Silt will be back. We kindly ask you to wait, and we will then move forward as soon as he's back again in the call. It seems Tamo is back. We're just waiting for the audio signal. Tamo, we can't hear you right now. Unmute yourself, and then we can move forward.
So, am I back?
Yes, you're back. So we will move forward with the call.
Well, I don't know whether I should say thank you to France Telecom or who I own for this courtesy of having internet connection, but thank you. So I think we finished the slide with the bank and we can continue with the loan repayment behavior. And let me just repeat that the customer loan repayment behavior has improved during 2022. We are actually above our strategic target of 90%, CPI 90%, which is good. And this is thanks to, I believe, thanks to better choice of the customers who to approve, and also better individual assessment of customer data. Maybe it's also blind luck, but as of now, it seems that the trend has been stably upwards. And since we know how we have adjusted our loan approval criteria, I still believe that great extent is the result that we see on the CPI graph upwards is the result of our own efforts. Having said that, I should also mention that we are not aiming the CPI to be significantly above 90%. The reason here being that in that case, we will decline too many loan applications and lose the market. We are still in a competitive situation. If we go over now to the next slide, which shows how we make money from the loans originated, then there is no significant change. What we see is that over the loan lifetime, we are able to receive from customers, according to the loan agreements, still more than 135% of the original issued loan amount. Well, there are some even higher benchmark values like 140 or 142, but inside Iute, I would say that for a 2-year loan, 135% is sufficient return, considering the costs of loan origination, costs of loan maintenance, and also the cost of capital or the interest that we pay to our investors. So repayment dynamics has remained good, and we can now also go over to the collection efficiency. How do the customers who default perform? So just a kind reminder to everybody, customer defaulted performance index shows how much money we receive from customer after loan agreement termination. Within a certain number of days, this particular index that we display is how much we receive within 180 days from the moment of termination. And IuteCredit applies very conservative termination criteria. We consider the loan defaulted once it's already 50 days over the due payment date. So, and here actually we could see the impact of what we think is the impact of the inflation and the hardships that come to a certain group of customers. Essentially, when historically we have been aiming at DPI 180 to be above 40%, meaning if customer defaults, we get at least 40% of the principal that defaulted back within half a year. Now, as we see, during last year, the DPI 180 has been actually below 40% mark. It's around 35% mark. So to tell something particular, we think that the impact of negative macroeconomic trends has not yet affected our performing customers, but the group who defaults the collection from that group has turned more complex and less efficient for us. And the difference is in total 5 points between 40% and 35% that we have now. Okay, I think I have spoken enough, and now it's time to hand over to Göksu. Göksu, thank you very much for joining us today. And we look forward to hear from you about the customers and customer progress and how we deal with customers.
Thank you, Tarmo. As Tarmo mentioned, I'm the Group Chief Customer Experience Officer. I've been with the company almost 4 years now. One of the guiding principles of the IuteCredit is creating extraordinary experience. And as a person, I'm obsessed with customers. This is one of the reasons I joined IuteCredit back in the day. And that is all where we started to do wonderful things. So we've started with creating an omni-channel contact center initially. And on top of that, we built the universally accepted net promoter score mechanism, where we actually capture the feedback of the customer from every possible interaction that we go through with. From the day I started until now, the improvement of the net promoter score is amazing. Of course, it's not happening overnight, but there's like a tedious work behind it. When we first started, we put every possible interaction with a feedback mechanism, and we started to understand why customers are happy and unhappy. The journey started at the NPS score of 45, and now we as a company in 2022 reached to 80% NPS level. That shows us that we are doing something good. And how do we do this? So from every interaction that we create with the customer, we constantly call them back and say, why were you unhappy and why were you happy? Please tell us to improve ourselves. These gave us amazingly great deal of improvement areas and processes and technology. So this is our guiding principle. We hear it from the customer and we actually work around it. It's a continuous loop. And of course, NPS standalone is not enough because this is the customer perspective, but we also have to look inside and understand how we are doing internally. So it's the inside approach, not the outside approach. So in order to get more customer growth, what we have accomplished is also we have quality assurance teams that are constantly evaluating our customer advisors in the front offices and back offices and understand what we're doing good, what we're doing bad, and we constantly train them to bring them up to speed with our new technologies, with our new processes, and how to serve the customers much better. Therefore, we not only listen to customers, but we also look internally and measure ourselves constantly. As a result of this impact, I can proudly say that 62% of our customer base in their active loan portfolio is our returning customers. We must be doing something good that they keep coming back to us. But of course, this wasn't enough. We want to build further on it. So now we have the customers, but who are these customers? As of last year, mid-last year, we have started the customer segmentation initiative. We have started with our country in Macedonia, and we have developed 8 different models. So we now know what's their value to us, how recently and frequently they come to us at a strategic level. And of course, strategic level is just for us, but on a day-to-day basis, on a tactical level, we have to understand their profiles, their channel usage, what kind of products they use, how are they doing in terms of repayments, what's their satisfaction with us, responsiveness. So this all gives us one full view of customer, who is who. At the moment, we are finalizing with the rest of the 2 countries, Albania and Moldova. And once we are finalized at the end of this month,
these will be our guiding principles while we are communicating to customers, while we are trying to sell to customers. We will be providing more customized products based on their needs and the segments that they fall under. We will be providing them a better satisfaction level next time they come to us if they understand that they were not happy with us the last of the interaction. So we keep building on our roadblocks. We are not staying still. It will continue to grow, and this is all from my side for today. Thank you.
So, and thank you, Kersu. Thank you, Tarmo. And I will briefly cover our financial highlights. So, as Tarmo already said, yes, our adjusted EBITDA 28.6 million euros. Year-on-year basis increased by 25%. And the main reasons, of course, higher level of revenues because of the higher level of payout level. Payout increased year-on-year basis by 30%. And of course, also that translated to the net loan portfolio as of end of December in amount of 145 million euros, which means that on a yearly basis, the net loan portfolio increased by 38%. At the same time, our operational expenses also increased, unfortunately, by 32%, and mainly because of the personnel costs, mainly because of the IT cost, due to the fact that we implemented new loan system to all subsidiaries, and of course, marketing costs as well. We managed to keep cost-to-income ratio in a level of 40%, and that is the maximum level we are trying to keep it. And based on the fact that now from middle of December, the new core has been implemented for all countries, which means that we are not planning to increase our team size. We believe that efficiency will improve. Our adjusted net profit without profit from acquisition of Enerbank, without legal cost from Kosovo arbitration, and from cost of Enerbank integration process was 7.4 million euros, even with much higher level of capex. Yearly basis capex increased by 27% because of the acquisition of Enerbank. Moving further. Yes, adjusted EBITDA 28.6 million euros and total income 72.5 million euros, which included primary revenues in amount of 60 million euros. Yearly basis, primary revenues increased by 20%. We collected 7.2 million euros as penalties on a cash basis, and we had other income in amount of 3.7 million euros. We are glad that wallet revenues are increasing day by day. And just one reminder that from 1st of January 2022, we are not making any accruals from the day T+51, which means no accruals from defaulted portfolio. As I already said, we managed to keep cost-to-income ratio at the same level as during 2021. Our net profit margin went up to 20%, even with higher level of capex, as I already explained. Consolidated basis capitalization ratio, which is equity to net loan portfolio, 28.9%, and consolidated interest coverage ratio, which is adjusted EBITDA to interest cost, 1.8. So in that respect, we may say that financial covenants were strongly covered. Moving now further, regarding loan book quality. As you see, only 8% from the loan book is defaulted loan book. Our gross NPL was 16% and net NPL 9.4%. we recognized provisions in amount of 18 million euros, and still provisions are representing close to 9% from total assets. Our impairment coverage ratio dropped a little bit to the level of 68%, because compare 2021, during the last year, we sold very few of defaulted loans, which will automatically affect impairment coverage ratio. Let's move to the next slide. As Tarmo already explained, without Enterbank, the level of assets at the end of December, 214 million euros, from which 76% was presented by cash and by net loan portfolio. At the end of December, we had in total liabilities in amount of 173 million euros, out of which interest-bearing liabilities in amount of 163 million euros. Year-on-year basis, interest-bearing liabilities increased by 20%, but at the same time, net loan portfolio increased by 38%. As you all know, yes, we have already started the preparation of 50 million refinance exercise. And in the near future, at the beginning of March, definitely we will publish and we will announce all the details about it. So that's all from my side, and Tarmo, please.
Thank you, Kristel. Thank you. So indeed, this is also the reason why we are apart, that two Iron Ladies are in Tallinn with the rest of our headquarter team of close to 60 people. And I am traveling today in Paris, for instance, because we have mandated a syndicate to assist us to carry out the 50 million euro bond refinance exercise. We will release more details about the exercise shortly. We are certainly considering offering the existing bondholders opportunity to swap their bonds into our 2026 bonds, which bears a different coupon. So there will be also interesting time ahead to agree on the yield for the investors. But the roadshow has started, and for our retail investors, we will publish information very soon. Actually, this traveling around and working with people in different locations tells a good deal about us as well. When Göksu explained our understanding of customers and our work with customers, maybe the single point then to remember is that customers pay our bills. Even the interest that we pay to investors twice a year comes from customers. And the work with customers is carried out with the technology through the user interfaces like My Iute app, but also by our people and our local managements in the countries. So while we are having this webinar, we have teams working in, actually, I start to count and I make it in 7 countries doing something. And trying to keep it aligned, which sometimes works, and sometimes we also have some flaws, like during today's call. But this happened, and nevertheless, we succeed. So it has been a very successful year, the past year. In this year, we expect more moderate growth. We have to be conservative and look at what is happening on the markets. Also, our customers are conservative. We still expect growth. We expect a revenue for the group consolidated level of about 100 million euros. We, of course, expect to remain profitable, not to repeat 2022 in terms of profit, but clearly we are aiming above 10 million euros. And now with this, I will finish our presenting part, and we look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Tamo, Crystal, and Gusko for the detailed presentation. We will now move over to the Q&A session. If you would like to ask your question directly to the management, please raise your virtual hand. If you have dialed in by phone, please press the star key followed by number 9 to enter the Q&A queue. You will be then asked to unmute yourself by presenting the star key followed by number 6, and questions can be also placed in the chat box. It seems to take a minute. Well, we got one question. Did I get it right? And you'll offer investors to roll over to existing 11% 2026 bonds?
Short answer is yes. There are, of course, details and nuances. Maybe lawyers will tell me that I cannot call it rollover, but yes, we intend to offer investors opportunity to exchange their current 2023 bonds into 2026 bonds at certain terms, and we will release information on that soon.
Okay, thank you very much. And we got the question. Please go ahead, the person with FOL and then 100361. You please unmute yourself. Yeah.
Hi, good morning. It's Frank Oliver Lehman here. Hi, Crystal. Hi, Tamo. Just two questions regarding the bank. One is I hear that you now represented on the supervisory board. How many are on the supervisory board and how many seats can you claim there? That will be one of my questions. And the other one was, since the book of the bank is held by, or the equity is held by the parent in euros, what has been the FX loss? Because you did mention that aside that there was an FX loss in your books on holding the investment in a bank. And if you allow me one other one, which just came up here, is you did mention that selling of defaulted reference claims has lately been a little bit more tricky. There was a restructuring, or is one of your potential buyers out there who had some problems. Is that the reason, or is it generally a market where there are fewer buyers of defaulted reference claims out there? Thank you.
Thank you, Frank Oliver. Crystal, would you please take question number 2 regarding FX loss or possible FX loss on the bank's equity value? And I will take the question on the collection efficiency. And I start with that actually. So collection efficiency, the difference of 40% of defaulted principal collected within 180 days and 35% collected. So the 5 points, this is the money which we receive from the customers, defaulted customers. It's sometimes we sell our debts also to external collectors, depending on the market connections, but we have our internal benchmarks to the pricing. And I cannot confirm that it is that the decline in DPI 180 is because of the reduced price that the collection companies offer, but it is just that we succeed following the same process, the same approach to customers, and having the same tools at hand to restructure the debt. We still fail to collect the same amounts during the given timeline than we did before 2022. So, and the difference is 40 to 35. Decline is 5 percentage points. And then Frank Oliver, you had a question also on the bank. And can you please one more time repeat it? Maybe I lost the point while I was talking.
I need to unmute myself. So how is the connection now towards Paris and is it okay? Am I
yes,
audible?
Yes. I hear you well.
Super. So okay. I hope you understand me well. That's more important. So the question number one was on the supervisory board. You now have taken control of the bank and the ownership, but you also need to control management via the supervisory board. So how many seats are there, and how many seats can you delegate into that bank? Or if that's not the system, how they operate that? I remember I used to work for the German administration for some time in my life, and it's not always the way that you can freely nominate somebody. There needs to be qualifications, etc., etc. But how is the supervisory board constructed now? And my second question was on that FX loss, because the equity of the bank is held by the parent, and of course the equity of the bank is in Moldavian lei, and you might have paid a price for that. What is the FX loss on that position? Because I understand Crystal did mention there was an FX impact in the parent through that devaluation of the Moldavian lei.
Okay, I answer on the bank supervisory board. So there are 3 members, and the supervisory board size is 3. There are 2 more candidates pending from the headquarters. But as of now, the supervisory board is already manned sufficiently so that the National Bank released the bank from temporary administration. Before we bought the bank, it was under the temporary administration of the National Bank of Moldova. So as to how many members we can elect to the supervisory board, it is answered by the bylaws of the bank, and the bylaws of the bank can be changed by the shareholder. So we can, for instance, even make a supervisory board of 7 members or 6 members as we please. Currently, we are aiming at 5 members, but already 3 is enough to make the supervisory board functioning. The current members are elected by us. They are independents. One of the members is former CEO of a large bank, and also former chancellor of Ministry of Justice. One member is the rector of the largest economic university in Moldova, and one member is a reputable banker. So, and we have very good cooperation with them. Crystal, yes, I pass it now over to you, Crystal, regarding FX.
FX and regarding Enerbank, yes, during last year, approximately 4 million euros was unrealized forex loss from Enerbank equity, which is revaluation is not part of P&L, but it is recognized in equity level. So as you all most probably noticed, as of end of September, we had equity in amount of 59 million euros, and now as of end of December, equity 56 million euros. And during the last quarter, forex loss from Enerbank equity a little more than 3 million euros.
Okay, thank you very much. If there is a follow-up question, please raise your hand again, Frank. What's the outlook for iron issuance in Moldova, and how does the tense political situation impact operations currently? And another question, do you see your ICR covenant at risk as a result of refinancing the Eurobond at possibly higher coupon, as well impact from possible deterioration in profitability due to macro look?
Oh, so many questions. Let me start from something.
Yeah.
I start again from the end. So the last part of the question was, are you able to meet the bond terms if you have to pay higher coupon? Well, the answer, maybe it's a bit provocative, but why do you assume that we aim to offer anybody higher yield than the current coupon of 13? And as you see from the economic or financial results, the covenants have been met with plenty of reserve at the current coupon rates. I will not even go any any further from that point, or to start discussing is IuteCredit willing to pay anybody more than 13%, for instance. It will be inappropriate. Now, as to the question of political situation or and overall situation in Moldova, then maybe it's not nice to say, but it is business as usual. Of course, human psychology and the psychology of media is that there is always something which you take into the spotlight, and once it's in the spotlight, everybody sees it, but it has been there all the time. So if we talk about Moldova, then the pendulum between going towards the West or Europe, European Union, European values, or pendulum towards the East and being under Russian influence, it has been there all the time. Of course, if you look at the long-term dynamics, you see that it is constantly tilting more and more towards Europe, and even more so now when the only remaining country which it has land border with is very clearly and without any compromise taken the direction towards Europe, I mean Ukraine. So that's, let's say, a very broad answer. Now let's go into more detail. So what actually has happened is that Moldova cannot acquire cheap energy any longer. And as a result of this, people have to either spend less energy, meaning staying cold, or they have to pay more for the energy. And it's easy to blame government. And of course, there are also political forces which are interested in blaming the government. And in that context, I'm not even willing to protect the government. I just say this is the objective situation. But when I visited Chisinau, I was there actually 10 days ago. And before that, maybe a month ago, when I have seen the protesters' tents, there are street protests going on, then I see that the tents are very well organized. Actually, one interesting peculiarity, again, if I compare it with Yellow Vest, Gilets Jaunes protests in Paris a few years ago, they seem to be very, let's say, unorganized, whereas in Moldova, in the tents, they are placed in front of the president's palace and in front of the parliament in a very orderly manner, I would say almost military manner. And inside the tents, you can see mattresses, which are of exactly the same shape and color, and they have been pumped with air. So it's very well organized national protests, but I got the feeling that there is somebody behind. And again, then we come back to who is behind and what it could mean to us. And long story short, it's a struggle as usual. It is for power, obviously. So far, we have seen that the democratic processes in Moldova throughout our past 15 years have prevailed. We started with communist president and communist parliament and communist prime minister, officially communist, standing next to Vladimir Putin. We have seen also pro-European powers, political powers coming to the government, taking it over. We have seen also them plunder the power. I referred to, if you still remember, there was the scandal of 1 billion euros stolen from the banking system. And then we have seen the return of new political power, socialists, and again, them standing next to the President Putin. And we have seen then again, one more time, a new government or the current government, current political coalition coming back to power and taking the country again towards Europe. So we have seen all this, and long story short, it's business as usual.
Okay, thank you very much. And there's another question regarding inflation. With the inflation rates where they are now across Europe, do you think you have to come down with the interest rates charged to customers to be more accommodative towards the increased costs of living?
The answer is that we still, our first aim is to keep our profitability. Obviously, profitability comes when customers can repay the loans. So the answer is kind of yes or no, rather no. We are not trying to accommodate it in the price of the loans. If the loan is too expensive, but we see that we cannot afford cheaper loan because there is the individual credit risk, country risks, currency exchange risks, and every other risks. If we can't accommodate it, then better, darling, don't take the loan. But for the customers who already are bound with us and who owe us money, we try to be flexible. So we have a possibility to offer suspension of repayments. We have also possibility to offer restructuring of the loan and extending the maturity so as to reduce the monthly repayment. Sometimes we also reduce the pricing, but this is not clearly the policy we should be aiming for. If we talk about reduction of pricing, then we talk essentially about what are the choices. Do we go into the default mode with the customer defaults, and we start collecting, which is also not good, or we try to be flexible. But so far, I will say that if you are asking whether we have given concessions or trying to push concessions on customers, answer is no. And when we measure the CPI, then the CPI is still based on the original contracts as they were signed with the customer.
Okay, thank you very much. Just a quick reminder, if you still have questions, you can place them in the chat or raise your virtual hand. Are there regulation issues regarding interest cap?
Yes, there are. There are effectively regulations in every country where we operate. They are expressed with different methods. The simplest method that you can think of is just to say in the law that a lender cannot charge more than X percentage points for interest and every loan-related fee, and that's it. But usually the caps are more elaborate. There are caps which are expressed through different algorithms related to the central bank interest rates or some other numbers. So the methods are different, but yes, there are gaps. And just to give you the numbers, then in Bulgaria, the number is about 42%. In Macedonia, currently, it's close to 50%. In Albania, Albanian model is more complex because there are caps depending on the loan amount. And actually, it's very responsible moment now. I don't want to make an error, but let's say that there is big difference if the loan amount is more or less than 1,500 euros. And if it is less than 1,500 euros, then it certainly doesn't affect UteCredit zone credit policy or our loan pricing. And if it's above 1,500 euros, then I think the current cap is somewhere at 20%, low 20s. So there are caps.
Okay, thank you very much. It seems that there are no further questions. I would say thank you all for your questions, and thank you very much, Tamo, Crystal, and Gusko for your presentation and the time answering the questions. I will hand over for some final remarks to Tamo.
Well, thank you very much. Well, thank you everybody for your attention. For the ones who have money in Iute, I say that your money is safe. We are not sitting comfortably on the chair. We are alert, and sometimes things go not very smoothly, like even this webinar call, but we have succeeded and we continue to succeed. For the ones who consider extending the investment with Iute, please consider. We will let know about the more detailed information on our offer or on the terms very shortly. And other than that, if you would allow us to get back to work. Thank you.